What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down Justin Herbert's throwing mechanics. I think he had one of the best combines this weekend, workouts, and we're going to talk about what makes him so special, why he's got such a live arm. We're going to break down some combine film and some game film today. And guys, if you're a quarterback and you want to improve your reading coverage ability, you got to get better at reading defenses. You want to know what the defense is going to do before they even do it. Check out that link in the description. If you like how I break down film on YouTube, you're going to love how I break down film on my website, where we're talking all about coverages and football IQ. So let's get this video started. So he's taking this 7-step drop here. 2 hitches are going to be throwing this high corner route, okay? So the main thing I want you to see is when he takes these hitches up in the pocket, what a lot of young quarterbacks will do is they'll drop back, and then when they hitch up rather than hitch out, okay? This is something that I teach, and the main reason that I teach this is because I want to be able to keep this strong base that he's in, right? The main thing that a lot of people stress at this high of a level is being able to keep a strong legs, trying to keep a strong base, because you want to have a strong base in the pocket rather than a weak base, and I want a strong base first, and then a little bit, my feet are just outside my shoulders, okay? And that's why he has such a live arm, right? Everybody loves to talk about, the arm strength, the arm strength, the arm strength. Arm strength does not come from right here. It comes from right here in these legs. So you see when he hitches up here, he never loses this. He's in this glute dominant position, right? This is why squats are so important for a quarterback. You got to sit your butt down, because that's where all your leg drive comes from, and you got to have a slight bend to your knees, because that's how you keep ground force, okay? So you watch on the throw here, he's pushing straight off that inside arch of his back leg. And when he pushes, that starts the backstroke. Now, you see, a lot of people think that he lifts this ball straight to 90. He's got a little bit of this opposite L angle. Now, it's a little bit tighter. I would compare his mechanics, honestly, to another Oregon guy, Marcus Mariota. That's a guy who he throws very similar to, right? So you see how he pushes, gets those arms going back. Keeps that separation between his shoulders and his hips. Hips are going forward, shoulders are going back, right? Now, you can see how his back hip, especially when we're throwing this thing, we want to throw this thing with touch, and we want to put this thing with some air, right? So I got to throw this thing up and over. My hip drive's got to take me up, and my wrist flick has got to be up in the air, right? So you see how he's driving from that back hip? What's coming through first, the hip or the ball? The hip, right? That's called chasing the hip. You want the ball to trail behind your hip. His hip is shooting through. Now you can see here, his left arm swings it out a little wide, right? So he's got long arms. He's a long, lanky guy here, but if he could keep this front arm a little bit tighter, I think he could see a little bit quicker release from the motion, but his release is still pretty quick in general. It's just I think it could get a little bit better here, but you see how when he finishes, he does finish square, right? He's not swinging that left shoulder all the way outside of his frame and finishing way over here. He's keeping that left side here, and he's finishing squared up to the target and letting his follow through and his hips do the work, okay? So you see he finishes square here. His hip is what's driving him up and over the throw. Now you see when he releases this ball, look where his follow through is. His follow through is up in the air. That's what gives you touch, guys. If I could come out and throw this thing with a little bit of shoulder arc here, you see he's on this like a little bit underneath, or a little bit underneath a 45-degree angle, and I drive off that back leg. I get my front leg down fast. I drive off that back hip, and I leave my follow through up in the air. That's a recipe for getting a lot of touch on this ball and getting this thing to drop right in the bucket. And you can kind of see here, but the throw is right in stride. Great ball by Justin Herbert, okay? So now this is kind of a more basic throw. He's going to be throwing a slant, so let's watch it full speed. Now, this might not look like much here, but we're just going to talk about the mechanics, okay? This is a little bit better of a look, a little bit clearer of a look, okay? And then after this, we're going to get to some game film. So see how he's here again, driving off that back leg, right? But he's not, you see how he's not pushing up with it. He's not popping his butt out. He's pushing off the inside arch. All the energy from this back leg, and this is a great angle to see this, all the energy from this inside arch is going straight out to this slant. That's where we got to be pushing from my back leg, quarterbacks. I can't be pushing up and letting my back leg lock out. I got to be pushing out, and you see how when we push out, it forces this back hip to come through before the ball. That's called torque, guys. But the only way I keep that torque is if I stay square to the target. If I take this left shoulder and I swing my left shoulder way outside my frame here, you see how he still finishes with his back shoulder on the target, right? He's just not swinging his left to where it's way outside of his frame. He still finishes square, but like I was saying in the last clip, he could do a better job of keeping that front arm a little bit tighter, trying not to open up that shoulder as much. But you see here, get into this opposite L. His hip is what takes him to 90, then he rotates through. Now, When I'm releasing this ball, guys, we want to be long, right? I want to have long fingers. I want to extend out, right? So that's exactly what we got to do on any kind of short route, right? Because this is a slant, not a very deep throw. 5-yard throw, whatever, off a 3-step drop under center. We got to get this ball out, but it's a little flick of the wrist, right? I'm driving from the legs. My hips are taking me there, but I still want to be accurate, and that comes from my wrist flick. My wrist flick and keeping my left arm tight, keeping my eyes level. You see how he's not leaning out of there with his head. That's the best way to improve your accuracy, right? I got to be able to drive, get my hips through, and then flicking right at the target. Your body, like think of it like you're going to dinner, right? I'm going out to dinner. My body, my leg drive, my hips, that's going to pay the tab. And then my arms, which is my wrist flick, and my follow-through is going to pay the tip, right? That's just tipping the waiter, and that's just what's going to happen with your accuracy. Your body's making this throw, though. We're rotational athletes. Flicking my wrist, driving up the inside arch, getting your hips through. Let's watch it full speed one more time. So drive, hips through, your wrist makes the throw. Your wrist is accurate. So now this is a game time scenario here. He's rolling out of the pocket here. I want to talk about how he gets set to his base before he makes a throw. So let's watch it full speed. So coming out here, get set. Quick stride, get the ball out of my hands, okay? Now, I know it's a little bit tough angle to see with the ball, but we get a really good shot at his mechanics here. So, again, we could see when he's running out of this pocket, quarterbacks, he's real narrow, right? Because when we run, guys, we're not going to run in a wide base, right? That wouldn't make us fast. He's got to buy some time back there in the pocket so he gets narrow because he's running. But this is why quarterbacks work those drills where you got big movements and then you got to get set to your platform. So we get used to getting set in this scenario that I'm about to show you. You see how he's here and right before the throw. Look where his feet are, just outside of his shoulders, right? That's where I got to be. This back leg's a little bit too far, a little bit of an over. You can overstride with your back leg. I would like to maybe move it in a fraction of a hair, but again, game time scenario really doesn't matter when it comes down to it. In a game time scenario, this is something you need to work when you're in a more structured environment like a practice environment. You can't think about all this stuff during a game, right? This is just to show you what I think would make it a little bit better because you're going to see on this clip, because he pushes so well off this back leg, it almost looks like he's got an overstride here. Because look, you see how wide his base is right here? That's where I'm saying he needs to close down this back leg because it looks like we got a little bit of an overstride with the front leg, but really it's an overstride with the back leg. If I can move my back leg in just a little bit more, I can maximize ground force, I can maximize push, I'll have a little bit more drive from my legs, and I'll be able to have a lot more pop with that front. But you see how quick that front leg gets down. It's just I don't want to leave this back leg too wide because you look what happens to it. It locks out on him, right? It locks out and my hip is trailing behind. My hip in this position should be driving through. My arm, I shouldn't be in this 90-degree angle without my hip, right? And you see how it has a little bit of a coil on his motion, right? I never want the ball to drift that far behind my shoulder, if that makes sense, right? I want to be in a little bit stronger of a position right here. Most guys call it a position of zero. That's what a lot of these experts call it, a position of zero. But you see how because his hip is not coming through, because his base was just a little bit too wide, it creates this extra coil in his motion, right? But again, still not a bad throw. He keeps a slight bend of the front leg, so he's keeping the ground force that he produced, keeping that front arm nice and tight. He's staying square. It's just I would think that we could get a little bit more of an explosive position on the finish of that throw. I hope that makes sense. But again, on the follow through, you see how he's extending, right? Extending right here, flicking my wrist at the target, and then you see it's got a little bit of pop over the middle here. I just think his base was a little bit too wide, and that's what caused this back leg to lock out on him, and his hips weren't driving through until almost it was too late. I don't want my hip to be almost even with this ball, right? I want my hip to come through just a little bit sooner. Let's watch it full speed one more time. So coming out here, drive, just got to get that front foot down, got to get my base a little bit more close together, and that's going to create a much smoother motion. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. Please leave in the comments who you would like to see me break down next, whether it's quarterback, receiver. I'm taking all requests, and I'll make sure to get back to you. And, guys, again, if you want to improve your football IQ, check out that link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.